Hi, everyone. We're back with another episode of the Scaling Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Harper, and today I'm speaking with Cole Ruud-Johnson. Cole spent years spinning up businesses that made money but didn't compound.
You know, a good product is something that people tell their friends about, and they're excited to tell their friends about, and you have a lot of organic growth. And I wasn't really getting that. We were having some success in my early 20s, but it was never like compounding success because I was so distracted.
Wow.
And
Then he made one critical decision that changed the trajectory of everything. Today, we talk about the cost of chasing opportunities, the value of doing the basics well, and how he built a focused lead generation machine that serves both home services and real estate customers. Stick around for this one. It's full of hard-earned insight that every operator or soon-to-be business operator needs. All right. Cole, thanks for coming on the show.
thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, we've been connected on Twitter for some time, and I know you've worked with one of our franchisees, and we've just never actually connected over the phone or in person. So I said, let's change that and let's get on a podcast together so we could get to know each other. So
I've followed you for quite some time. It's been fun watching you build what you're building, and I think I've taken away how singular focused you are on building what you're building. I think is awesome, and there's a couple guys on Twitter that have that mindset, and it's something I've tried to adopt over the past year, and it's been helpful for me. So I love your content as well. But yeah, my background is I've been self-employed, running my own business for the past decade. I've never had a job at 18 when I went to play basketball down at a school in LA, and I hated being in school. It was a random Tuesday. I was a semester into college, and I was in accounting class, and I was like, man, this is just not doing it for me. So I drove back to Seattle from LA that same day, and originally started in real estate. So my family was all agents. I thought that path was for me. I was probably the worst real estate agent ever. I did the open houses, called expired listings, all that kind of crap, and just nothing came of it. And I got into then the off-market game of wholesaling and finding distressed assets, which really led me into my zone of genius, which is lead generation and call centers. And so that pushed me into, at 19, building my first call center, which was now, almost 8 years ago in the Philippines. That all happened by meeting an expat that at an event. I was like, hey, I have this little operation I'm trying to grow. I could use help. And we built that to about 60 agents. And then from there, I've been on this like world tour of starting, growing call centers, learning the ins and outs of it, both inbound and outbound, and which is how obviously I started working with one of your guys. And now we have a couple different arms of it. And it's all around inbound and outbound telephony service. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in that industry, in that world right now, with obviously the development of AI, with augmentation that comes from that, what we're able to do. But yeah, that's the background. So I started in business young, tried the real estate route as an agent, had some success in the off-market world, finding distressed assets. That led me into lead generation, and here I am just building call centers.
I love how, you talk about focus. Like, I love how you could just pick like one thing and be like the call center guy, or like the, power washing franchise or franchise person, in my case or whatever. And, really just kind of like own that and say it over and over again. Can you talk a little bit about, like, I know specifically for you over the last year, at least based on some of the stuff I've read recently, like, you just have like completely simplified, or at least from like a focus perspective. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I think being especially kind of, it's funny. I tell my wife, like, I feel like my prefrontal cortex came in a little late, at like 26. But when I was younger, early 20s, mid 20s, it was hard to say no to anything. Any way I could make money, it was exciting and new and shiny, and I'd pursue it, and a lot of times have success in it. And that never really ended, and it's a bad habit because I was just like quadrupling my operational issues across everything I said yes to, and never actually solving what mattered, and creating I created a bunch of average products, but never creating like a really good product that was, a good product is something that people tell their friends about, and they're excited to tell their friends about, and you have a lot of organic growth. And I wasn't really getting that. We were having some success in my early 20s, but it was never like compounding success because I was so distracted. And so I've just realized how sexy of a thing lead generation is to pretty much everyone in the world. And I've just kind of found my little niche of the world that's focused around that. And we really have two arms. We have our pipeline generator arm that's ran by David full-time, who I know some of your team has connected with. That's home service, inbound and outbound, just for home service companies. It's kind of where we've found our little niche. And then I have the side I run more actively, which is the real estate side for real estate investors, agents. So they're ran out of similar centers. They're ran on the same platform, but just focused around the sales process software that's needed for the end user. So that's how I focus. And I mean, I've shut down everything else this year and just said, hey, this is going to be my thing. And since I've done that, it's been a million times better.
Yeah, I mean, I follow Alex Hormozy, and he talks about this a lot as like, he refers to it as the woman in the red dress. As entrepreneurs, like we love, I'll just speak for myself. Like I love starting things from scratch. Like I love taking like a stick and like a piece of metal together and like hitting them until fire sparks. And then like watching that fire like grow. But at some point in every business, you're rewarded by doing like the boring things over and over again, like iterating on processes or like changing the hook or like whatever, like really detailed, like quote unquote boring things. And as business owners, like we basically have to go from like getting rewarded for the thing that we did, which is to create a company from scratch, to now like going against everything we know to just do something over and over and over again. And I think we all struggle with that. I mean, I do. Like I see another, another business that I think is like interesting. And I'm like, oh, what if I like did this and like bolted it on, and then franchisees could make more money because now they have another brand. And it's like, wait a minute, like we just launched this 2 years ago. Like it's so difficult to become exceptional at one thing. Like it means that by definition, you're the exception. And so like you try to quadruple that before you figured out how to become the exception at that one thing. And it's like, well, now you've just quadrupled your problems versus like kind of pushing through that growth. That like, yeah. So I don't know.
And the word that you said, the basics is, I had 15 of our clients last week. I took them to Park City just to do a little, ski, snowboard, hang out, little mastermind sessions.
Did Nick go to that with you guys?
No.
Was Nick there?
This is more the real estate guys than.
Okay, he was in Park City last week.
Oh, really? That's
hilarious. And so was I. We were on the mountain at the same time. Nick and I had no idea. Yeah, I talked to him yesterday. He's like, "What?"
Last week it was warm and weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and the whole theme I kept realizing, and I was communicating to them as I was presenting and asking questions, was just how many of them, even the guys that had $5, $6, $7 million businesses, which in the real estate world is a massive business because you're running at 40% margin, 50% margins. You don't need to do more volume than that, really. But there was no one in the room that was doing all the basics in terms of following up with their leads the right way. And we know now, like I can tell you a lot of the home service franchisees from a variety of different franchise brands we've worked with, almost a lot of the bigger ones, at least in the Twitter, LinkedIn world. Just the basics of follow up and speed to lead and working their leads, almost no one does it. Collecting testimonials, just like the if you listed out the 100 just basics of business that you should be doing, almost no one does it. And it's a frustrating. I'm sure it's a frustrating piece to you too, because you bring on a franchisee, you're like, hey, here's the leads, here's everything you need, and you call them like, hey, yeah, I haven't called that lead in the last 4 days. It's like, okay, well, there's only so much. I mean, you're directly levered against your franchisee's ability to do that, and I'm directly leveraged against my client's abilities to do that. And so most of my brain power goes to how to make that easier for people in whatever way possible. But yeah, it's the basics, and that's the frustrating part. I think the longer I'm in business too is for myself. Like I think that's what the shiny object syndrome is. It's a distraction from boringness, because I think type A entrepreneur hustlers, like, we hate boring, and we prefer chaos, and we prefer payroll issues and chaos and new businesses than like a steady flowing company, because it's boring. And I better retrain my brain to, like, okay, boring is good. And I had a business coach who's big on Twitter, John Cipher, who wrote the book Output Thinking, who was just, most of our calls were him just telling me, like, just do not destroy this because you're bored. Do not destroy this because you're bored. And I think that's a fight we all have to fight daily.
I like the framework. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but the more, better, new.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
you seen this?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Like if you can do, like, that's the kind of order of thinking. It's like, well, can you do more of it if it's working? If you can't do more of it, can you do it better? And then you go back to more. Can you do it better? And then now do more of it again. And then once you've done it the most you can, the best you can, now, and like you've saturated your market, or you've maxed out your product line, or like there's no other services you could provide your customers, like, now let's look at new. And as entrepreneurs, we want to go new. New's sexy,
Yep.
new's fun, new's exciting.
Yep.
So real estate and home services, like, which one do you like more, and why?
I mean, I have a real estate background, and so that's kind of when I was sitting down with 6 months ago and deciding where I was going to spend all my active working time. And David, who's incredible, he's the, call him. I personally hate the word CEO of, like, if you're sub like $20 million, like, I don't know. I've never liked calling myself a CEO. So I'll put it like, I own and I operate the real estate side of what we do. David operates full time the home services side. So I don't think I like either of them better. I mean, what I've found is that it's pretty much the same issues you're helping people solve at the end of the day. It's they need leads, but then 90% of it is what happens after that. What their pipeline looks like, how they work their pipeline, how they train their team, who they hire to work their pipeline, how they set appointments, what those appointments look like, how they follow up after appointments, when they get bids out. It's very similar. So the function of each operation is pretty much exactly the same, and the problems we're helping our clients solve. But yeah, so I don't really have a favorite. I think home services, the main difference is, because there are differences, is the sales cycle is much quicker. In real estate, with an off-market lead for a house or a commercial building or a piece of land, you're going to be 90 days on average from a lead being created to a conversation really even getting serious. More like 120 days to the actual sales cycle of a contract being mutually executed. In home services, obviously, that happens a lot quicker. Whether it's power washing or roofing or HVAC work or pool, whatever it may be. So, I think a faster feedback loop is always more fun and always easier to iterate on. So there's that piece of it. But yeah, they're similar functions, and I think most of my brain power now goes to, crap, okay, we're really good at generating leads. How do we help people solve the nuances? Which I think is the same question every franchisor asks themselves is, okay, now we're signing a bunch of franchisees. How do we become the best in class at giving them everything they need to be successful? And I've realized just a lot of that is working with the right people and being ruthless about letting the right people in as clients, because you can give some people everything and they're just not going to do anything with it.
We've been like ruthless about this at Rolling Suds. I mean, like, I've been in the franchise industry for a long time, and franchising only works if you have franchisees who are willing to execute on the model. It also only works if there's a franchisor that knows how to execute as well. But you need both of those things in order to build a great franchise brand. And so, I mean, we launched 2 years ago, and we've turned away probably over 85 people that had the capital and weren't right for our system. In my view, it's going to cost us way more time and energy and like cultural issues to get someone out than we'll make bringing them in. And a lot of franchisors don't talk about that kind of stuff because, like, it might spook people and be like, oh gosh, like, is it not going to work or whatever? It's like, the truth of the matter is like, yeah, no matter what it is, it might not work. Like that's what business is. If it was guaranteed to work, I wouldn't need to franchise the business.
We
Like
wouldn't
we
be,
would
we
just
wouldn't be on
hire
a,
people.
we wouldn't be on a podcast. We would be on yachts.
We wouldn't be on a podcast. We'd be on yachts. Like if it was just guaranteed, and all I had to do was like put some money in the lead machine and like, you know, put $1 in, get 10 out. Like it's just not that simple. And I'm sure it's the same for you guys in your call center. Cause like, you know, if you have a client who's not willing to like execute and you're generating the leads and they're just like sitting on them, like that's bad validation for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
If someone is trying to vet your services and they start to call customers and say, hey, how's the experience been? Oh, the leads suck. It's like that person's not going to say, well, how long has it taken you to call the leads? Like they're not going to ask that follow-up question. They're just going to hear the leads suck. And then they're going to be like, oh, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Out of the 600-700 clients we've had, the ones that have stayed, you know, 4 or 5 years are the ones that either usually have some kind of sales background we found, or are grinders, and you can kind of help train in the operation side into them, or B, they have the grit because they've ran a small business of some kind. And there's some guys that are just brand new that do well and they just have it, but it's harder to know which one of them are going to be successful. But yeah, I mean, there's so many stories where I'll, you know, especially early on, I'd get on with a client and, you know, we set their CRM up for them. We make sure the integration's good. We make sure the leads are flowing in, and I'll get on with someone, you know, 2 weeks in or a month in, and we'll open up the leads and we'll look at notes, and they've called every single person maybe once, and no texts, no emails, and I think that's the good thing is, for you guys who are listening to this in every industry, I think the bar is so low to set yourself apart with sales, lead generation, follow up. The bar is so low. Especially in, you know, if you're running a business in the 1 to 10, 1 to 20 million range, after you get above that, people tend to operate a little better, at least from what I've seen. But yeah, it's insane, the stuff you see.
It's true. The bar is on, we say this in our process, like the bar is on the floor, especially in the power washing industry. I mean, it is dudes that just do it themselves. They don't answer the phone. They don't call back. They don't show up on time. They do a shoddy job. They just figured out how to do it from watching 1 or 2 YouTube videos. They break stuff. They kill plants. Like that's the bar for us. And so we just have to be like slightly better than that. But I mean, if you're not texting your leads as an immediate thing, you get the lead, you send a text, like you're missing out dramatically. I mean, on the franchise sales side, so like my background is in franchise sales, like, and then I became a franchisor. Okay. We had it set up to where a lead would come in and the immediate text message would go out automatically. And what it would say, and it took me a long time to like learn the perfect response, and you can steal this if you want. It said, hey, Jim, this is Aaron from Rolling Suds. Just received your request for some information. Looking forward to chatting with you. But before we do that, where are you located? Everyone knows where they're located. Like everyone. It's literally the most simple answer that you could possibly ask someone. And our conversion rate on like, lead to intro call changed dramatically. This was the last brand I was involved in, which was a drywall repair brand called the Patch Boys. But I learned that, and then the second text is, great, we have availability there. Does tomorrow at 2 p.m. work for a phone call? So all they got to do is say Austin, Texas, and yes, that's it. Those are the only 2 things they have to do, and that made just a dramatic difference.
Simple.
It's simple. And if you call someone and they don't answer because it's a random phone number, like, of course they're not going to answer. I don't answer random phone numbers, and I run a business. Like, it's just like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, some of the things on that before we move on, I've seen that work really well.
Yeah.
On the, like, especially after you get someone on the phone, like I always tell people, go put your phone number into like an insurance quote website and like see how many texts and emails and follow-ups you get. Couple of things that we train our clients on is one, we got called the 6x6 rule, which is 6 touch points a day for 6 days until you get them back on the phone, get an appointment set, move them through your process and the touch points, an email, phone call, voicemail, text message. And even that sometimes isn't enough. Another one is triple calling. So like we'll call 3 times in a row. First one, sometimes people answer. Second one's like, okay, it's serious. If someone calls me 3 times in a row, even now I'll answer, even if it's a random number. And as long as they haven't told you, hey, screw off, don't call me, you're fine doing that. And then, text and email. But yeah, I think that's, I just wanted to highlight that because it's such an important area for people, no matter what industry they're in. If they're doing any kind of lead intake, that's where the money's made. It's on how quickly can you get them back on the phone, get an appointment set, get them moving through your pipeline.
Yeah, speed to lead and just relentlessness. People don't understand how much it truly takes to like actually get someone to talk to you. I'm glad you're teaching people that. We do the same thing at for our franchisees, just stress it over and over and over again. And we track that kind of stuff. We could say, all right, well, everyone else's conversion rate is here. Yours is actually here. So it's not a lead problem. It's a conversion rate problem. And then they're like, oh, and then it's a coaching. It's like not a, hey, there's not enough leads. It's like, no, this is how we coach you to convert these and actually turn them into a big job.
That's smart.
You had some type of, was it Lyme disease? I saw somewhere.
Yep.
Talk to me. Yeah. What was that like?
Oh man, this was what, almost 6 years ago. I just turned 21 and I was at my parents' cabin, which is where I'm assuming I got bitten by a tick. And Lyme disease now they're finding out can come from ticks, deer, mosquitoes. It's actually transmitted sometimes now. You can be born with it. So I'm pretty sure that's where they had a cabin in Eastern Washington in the woods, and we used to go out and swim in the river and whatnot. My buddy and I were up there for a weekend, and my immune system wasn't in a good place. I was running my business 14 hours a day. I was stressed. I was in an office with 10 guys. Like I was early in my journey. It wasn't great at dealing with stress, and so I was on the drive back, and again, only 50% of infections show that bullseye rash that you hear about, which is a big circular rash that normally you get. And I just, it was weird. I had what I thought was a panic attack, and I hadn't had one before. And so I got taken to the hospital, and like, oh yeah, it was some of the symptoms of a panic attack, but your heart has a lot of irregularities we're not used to seeing for that. So I had some follow-up appointments, and then over the next 2 or 3 months, my body just like shut down. My vision pretty much was gone to the point where I didn't feel safe driving. Migraines, just this internal burning in my body, loss of coordination, even walking like 100 yards felt like it was miserable. I tested with a memory of a 70-year-old and I was 21 years old. So like I was a healthy, like about to be a college basketball player to moving back in with my parents, couldn't work more than 30 minutes a day. Like just my body shut down. And that led me to kind of a 2-year journey to getting past to doctor, neurologist. Some thought it was MS. Some thought it was a different kind of neurodegenerative disorder. Some thought it was autoimmune. And then finally met an ER doctor down here in San Diego that was like, hey, I really shouldn't be telling you this, but we should test you for this. Just because their guidelines are very strict on, hey, it's just an East Coast thing, blah, blah, blah. So I got tested, and there's one main marker in your blood called your CD57 level, and mine was just off the charts, and that's the main indicator of Lyme disease. So got on treatment for that. I ended up going and doing a treatment in Chicago, which is at a hospital, but insurance wouldn't cover us, like $60,000 out of pocket, and that's really what started my immune system, restarted my immune system, and set me on the path of getting better. But yeah, I really had to learn how to build leverage and how to systemize, how to delegate, because I had, for 3 years, I pretty much had an hour maybe I could work a day before I just felt miserable. My body was shutting down. So a lot of what I've built was built with an hour of working time per day. And, talk about kind of Parkinson's law. Like I had to be really, really focused on what I was doing. So yeah, much better now. I mean, there's a couple things I still can't do. Like I can't lift super heavy. I can't really exert myself to the point of like playing pickup basketball 5-on-5 or running a marathon. Otherwise, my body still kind of shuts down. But other than that, I'm pretty much 85% and consistently getting better.
Wow, that's wild. So those 3 years, you were still working and running businesses?
Yep. I was still.
That must have been gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah,
Wow.
I was 21, and then I didn't really start turning a corner until 24. So yeah, I was
Wow.
still running businesses as best as I could, um, a good just an hour or two a day in terms of like I could sit on calls or work with my team or work on a project. So yeah, I'm definitely grateful to, and still like if I work a 12-hour day or 10-hour day, like I feel it, like I'll be out for a day or two after. So I still trying to kind of pace myself, and I have weeks where I work a lot more, but then I have to sleep the whole weekend. So there's definitely still constraints with that. But yeah, I mean, I learned the hard way that, and I've seen this happen. Like the whole hustle culture thing is real and prevalent. And I tell people all the time, like, there's a price you pay for that, and that could be your
Hmm.
family, that could be addictions, that could be your immune system, that could be a variety of things. But borrowing from tomorrow or next week to squeeze in an extra 2 hours on any given day is something I try not to do anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you Sahil Bloom or whatever
Hmm.
released that book,
Hmm.
which, I mean, hats off to him because he did a phenomenal job with that book release. I mean, it's like a masterclass, but he released the book Five Types of Wealth, which isn't really a new concept, right? Like there's, I think the five types of wealth that he talks about are, it's like mental, physical, spiritual, social, and
Financial.
financial.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it basically, like the thesis of the book is like, we live our lives driven by like this financial, like finances is like the be all end all of wealth. But if the pursuit of finances decreases the other forms of wealth or inhibits the other forms of wealth, then really doesn't matter. So what we need to basically do is reshape our perception and grading system of wealth. Like it doesn't necessarily make sense to work 16 hours a day if you're not going to be able to live, an extra 3 years, like whatever, like however you think about it. Or if it's going to hurt your marriage, then you have to be like, wait, why am I doing this pursuit and what's kind of the real meaning behind it? And it's been really interesting for me. I've kind of been thinking through that lens as well, just like, you know, what am I there's no real like true destination.
No, not at all.
We make them up in our head. Like we literally make these things up and then we have ourselves and our teams march toward them, and it's like completely all made up. Like it's all perception, it's all made up. Like once I reach X number of revenue, I'll be happy, or once I reach this level of net worth, like I will be able to do whatever I want. And the other thing that they said in this book is there was like this study done across like all various levels of wealthy people, and it was like the consistent theme in asking them how much money they needed to be happy was 2 to 3 times more whatever they had.
Mm.
Like if they had $50 million, they needed 120 to 150, they thought, in order to like be fully happy. So it just shows you even more like it's all just kind of like made up stuff.
Yeah, Dan Martell had a good, who's kind of blown up. He had a good story on this where he was building his first software company, and they had just sold, and he got home from the office late one night and like on cloud nine because they sold, and he was putting in 15-hour days, and he walked in, his fiance was like, "I'm leaving you," and he was like, "Wait, what? Why?" And she was like, "Well, I never asked for this like this, and
Hmm.
I didn't need this." And I think I'm always amazed when I talk. My wife's fairly ambitious and supportive, but when I talk to her, and people just don't need. I think, and for me, like I found that like life doesn't change that much after like 40 grand a month, 30, 40 grand a month, until you're making 200, $300,000 a month, or you sell your company. Then yeah, you get another bump in lifestyle, but beyond like 40 grand a month, unless you get a massive leap beyond that, nothing really changes. And I found for myself, like I'm not a watch guy, not a car guy, not really a boat guy. I just like to travel and eat good meals, and I found, and I destroyed my health at 21. So I
Hmm.
learned the hard
Right.
way early that like there's a price you pay for that, and I'm just not willing to pay the same price. Now I do have days, and I always like to preface this with like everyone that runs a business has days where we're beating their head against the wall, and they have to work those hours. But
Hmm.
there's definitely a price that you always pay for it.
Yeah, totally. So I want to double click a little bit on so you closed, was it two businesses last year? Or you were running three businesses and now you're running one. Can you talk to me a little bit about that
Yes,
and what
I
that experience
was,
was like?
man, you talked to me a year ago. I had my real estate company, so actively doing real estate deals. I had my lead generation company for real estate investors and agents. I had my company building out call centers for people in different industries. I had my company that was doing lead generation for different industries, and then I had my like personal coaching one-on-one stuff that I did for people, plus events that we would do. We'd do an event a month. We were doing literally an
Wow.
event a month at our office in
That's wild.
San Diego, and we'd get 20,
That's
30 people
wild.
there. So, yeah, I had five different operating businesses with different teams, and they were making money, and I was making money, but it just wasn't. I never felt like I could really focus and let my skill set simmer all on one thing. So I just kind of looked at it and I said, what are my goals and what has the highest likelihood of getting me there? And since I've done that, I thought I was going to make less money for a while. And it wasn't just the businesses. Like I was a guy that had 20 things on my to-do list. So now my to-do list, I cap it at 3 things a day. So I've tried to just eliminate on every part of what I do, my to-do list, my calendar, my emails and Slack, like all of it. And it's ended up going the opposite way of what I thought. And which is what everyone says, but it's hard to believe. You're like, oh man, how could I do less things and focus on less businesses and make more money? But it's been really true for me so far.
Yeah, so I was doing all of the franchise development myself up until April of last year. Man, for those who are listening, franchise development is essentially franchise sales. It's finding franchisees to recruit them to your business. It takes a lot of time. It's a very difficult skill set to build because it's not just like your normal sale. Like you're not selling someone just like, hey, like come buy this thing and then like you're gonna own that thing. And now it's like, no, you're gonna leave your whatever you're doing full time. You're gonna come run this business full time. We're gonna run it together. We're gonna provide the resources and support, but you're actually gonna go out and execute. And it's a big transaction. I mean, people need to have $250,000 to $300,000 dedicated to it. So it was really hard for me to let go of, largely because the team that I had built was highly dependent upon me and the generating of the revenue that we were doing. And I made a pretty big bet. I was like, I think that if I step back from sales and hire someone really great to run it, and then focus more on content creation, I think, based upon everything I've seen, I made an educated guess that increase in lead flow from content would decrease the cost to acquire a franchisee such that it would pay for the sales team and then some. And it did, but it took 2.5 months of like them building their pipeline and them getting their own leads and their own relationships with brokers and my content to start moving and like all this stuff. And we were burning capital. And it's probably one of the scariest things I've had to do as a business owner is build a sales team and let go of that function. However, the bet ended up working out, and 42% of our franchise sales revenue last year came from content
Wow.
creation, up from 7% the year prior, which is insane. And we're even doubling and tripling down on it more this year because now we've kind of we've tested that thesis and we've realized, wow, this is a really high leverage thing to do. But I don't know about you, but I didn't start a business to like be chained to my desk and like not be able to leave. My wife came up to me last year, like in the beginning of the year, and she's sick. She's puking. Like we've got a baby who's a year and a half, year and 4 months or whatever, and she can't take care of the baby because she's crying. But I have my entire calendar booked for the next 5 weeks, and if I cancel a call, that person's not going to talk to me again for 5 weeks. There was no one to do that, no one to backfill. I had a waiting list of people that wanted to talk to me to become a franchisee. If I missed an hour, and I couldn't help, and there was nothing I could do. And I was like, this is not what I became a business. Yeah, it's a prison. I'm not doing it.
I talk a lot about that concept, like building a prison. It's so real. And I found for myself, you talk about the delegation topic, like I had an ego for a long time of like, I'm this magical being because I started a company and we brought money in and like we survived and I got it to this point and I'm really good. But really, I think what you find as an entrepreneur is like you're a pretty good. You have a skill set you're good at, but you're a pretty good generalist. But really, what you are is just kind of an enthusiastic, driven leader that attracts people and can kind of go after a vision and is willing to take a lot of risk. But I found myself like once I went and we hired our head of sales was a number 3 at Geico nationwide. And when we hired him and I recruited him and brought him in, I was like, oh, I'm not that good at sales. Like I was good enough, but I'm not that good at sales. And then we brought in a head of our call centers and that I was the head of the call center and he's done it for 20 years. So I'm like, oh, I'm not that good at managing a call center. And I found that so many times now that I think that's the hardest part for me is a lot of us, we have this ego around how magical we are because we started the business and we're willing to sacrifice a lot of things and fill our calendars to keep that dream alive of, hey, I'm the reason, I'm the thing. And the more I've been able to let go of that, and I've been shocked, like my team, like I next month I'm taking 2.5 weeks off. We're going on my mother-in-law's 70th birthday trip, which is in the Maldives. And so I'll be offline, and how excited they were to be like, oh yeah, we got it. Don't worry about it. Because my main active roles, they're happy to take over. So I think giving people, paying them well, giving them, an ability to build their dream inside of your dream. I've been shocked the past 2 years about how, not that I suck, but how not good I am at, or at least compared to the people that I've hired, I am at a lot of the roles in my company. Which I didn't. It was weird at first, but now I love. Like I like having a bunch of people that know a lot more than me around me.
Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, like, and it's a big mental shift that you have to make. You kind of go from like, at least me, like I was an employee before we launched Rolling Suds, and I was a really good employee. I was the second highest paid person at my company, or the company I worked for, next to the CEO. And I was great at being kind of an individual contributor, and that was what I had been rewarded for my entire career. And when you start a business, you're no longer an employee, you're an employer. And I've been writing about this a lot recently because we get a lot of people coming to us saying, well, when can I replace my salary? Or how long will it take me to replace my salary? And it's like, if you have a 6-figure salary and bills and things that you need from that 6-figure salary, like, and you need to buy a business that's going to replace it in the first year or two, like, don't buy a business. Like, just don't buy a franchise. Don't do that. Because what your business needs is the reinvestment from the profits from the business to then employ great people that are going to build your business for you. Yep. That, like you said, you can create a dream that's large enough for them to have their dreams fit inside. And we coach franchisees on that before they even decide to join, so that they can understand, like, this isn't like we're going to open 2 trucks and have $120,000 a year salary, $180,000 a year salary, and then passive just income. Passive income. It's going to be semi-absentee. It's like, no. We're not. That's crazy. Like, I don't understand how people sling that and sell that all day long, but
it sells. It does sell.
It does sell. And it's, I have seen some uptick in influencers saying there is no passive income, which I've been kind of excited about, because that's not how it was a couple of years ago. It was like, buy a laundromat and like, you don't have to do anything. And like, it's like, every business, I mean, let's just use me as an example. I have a full executive team on Rolling Suds. Like, we have a brand president, we have a chief development officer, a chief marketing officer, a chief financial officer. Like, we have a full C-suite. And it's not passive for me. like, it's still my everything. Like, it's not passive for me. There's always something more that could happen that the business needs from you as a leader at different levels of the business.
Even if it's just like coaching the people and energizing them. I mean, even that can be, it's a lot of energy. And I posted on Instagram because I have a really good team. Like I have a team that I truly believe that if I went into a coma tomorrow, I'd wake up a year from now and our business would be bigger than it is, and better than it is. But I posted on my Instagram story because I've been self-employed almost 10 years, like 2 weeks ago, and I remember it was a photo of a check. It was my salary, and I was 3 years into running my business in office every single day, and it was like $2,500, and the most I was paying myself was like $7,500 a month at the time, and my message was just like, I believe it's 4 years plus of really reinvesting, honing your skills. And I think that's kind of universal God, whatever people believe in. That's kind of the rite of passage to eventually running the business that you want to run and getting paid what you want to pay. Like every entrepreneur I meet that I'm like, okay, this guy gets it. He has the scars on his back and he runs my dream business and has my kind of life that I want. He has that season, or she has that season of 3, 4, 5 years of it. Like the way Hormozy describes it is like the Rocky the cutscene, right? Where you're just like, you're climbing the stairs, you're lifting the weights, and that takes, it never really ends. It's never really passive. And the people that I catch them saying those things, I'm like, oh, a lot of times I get concerned for them, because if you're a true entrepreneur, you didn't really choose entrepreneurship. It wasn't really like an active choice. It was just like, I like building things. No matter how big they get, I want to keep building. And that was always me. I was thrilled making $2,500 a month for my own business, because I'm like, man, this is an idea that I had that's paying me X amount per month. And even if that was $1, I was excited. So yeah, I think there's a huge misconception, and the culture is starting to change. Like there's enough voices, I think, now pushing back on the whole notion of passive income and business is easy. And that's my whole message: is business is hard. And it's not passive. And it takes a long time. And I've had close buddies in the past 2 years take their own lives because they got into entrepreneurship and they built big businesses, but they built themselves a prison of debt and personally guaranteed loans and the stuff that they saw online, and they realized, oh crap, like I can't just go to Mexico for 2 weeks and this isn't going to run itself.
I've noticed that too, and I think a lot of this comes from like the SMB ETA community, because the people a lot of the people that I follow are actually out creating great businesses.
Yeah.
And so when someone is out there like selling courses or like doing, hey, you don't have to work, you can buy this with zero down, and like just put an operator in place, like people are ripping those guys apart. You've got, Eric from SMB Law, you've got Chris Hoffman from Hoffman Brothers, you've got John Wilson, and these are people who are building great businesses and then sharing about it online. And like I saw some guy talk about how he was, you probably saw this, like how he was going to roll up accounting firms and get to $100 million in like 3 years while only working 4 hours a week or some stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, and everyone ripped him apart. Like everyone like was just like, hey, this is crap. Like this doesn't exist. Like he just got ripped apart. But that dude has like 100-some thousand followers, and like,
oh yeah, yeah.
And people like, will comment underneath, be like, send me the blah blah blah. Send me the playbook for making $100 million in 3 years without working.
Yeah, I think the Charlie's current meme account he's running, the Chase passive income thing.
It's hilarious,
and people.
It's so good.
People think he's serious. They go on there like, man, I got to learn this. I got to figure this out. Where's the link? And I'm, but I found that all those
it's so good.
All those guys, the entrepreneurship gods, if you want to call them that, all those guys that do that, like the passive income, get rich quick thing, they all end up in the same place, which is not where anyone wants to be, where they end up getting indicted, or they end up with their reputation destroyed, their family leaves them. Like every single one that I've known from the past 10 years, a lot of them have came and went, and when they go, they don't go to a good place. And I think that's, but it's the easiest money. And I think the hard part is, the frustrating part is, if you're running a real business and you want to turn it, if you have a little bit of a brand and you turn on the passive income, get rich quick biz op side, you make a lot more money than your active business. And I think that's the trap people get them into, is they inflate their lifestyle and they're backfilling it with the core sales, and then they feel like they can never turn those off. It's not it's a death spiral that I've seen. I've seen some what I would call decent people end up in that trap. Where they sell a couple courses because they want to make a little extra cash, and then 2 years later, They're no longer running their actual business, and they've destroyed their reputation. It's really hard to build, destroy, and then rebuild your reputation. It's almost impossible.
We see this, and I'm sure if you're working with franchisors, we see this in the franchise industry all the time. And that's really where I've become, where I've built a reputation prior to coming into kind of the SMB Twitter community, ETA community. And it's even starting to shift a little bit there too. But, you know, you have people say, hey, buy this franchise. It's semi-absentee. You can just like, and these are like service businesses where, you know, home service and residential commercial services, like you have to get out there. You're a hunter. Like, it's not like you just like hire an 80 grand a year general manager and like he builds your $2 million business for you. But there's a lot of franchisors that sell that. And they sell it like they'll sell 300 units or 1,000 units with like this allure of like passive income. The franchisor will just generate all the leads and you don't have to do anything. And what ends up happening is that it hurts franchising, first of all, but the most importantly, it hurts the franchisees who believed in that model enough to invest their like savings.
Yeah,
it's awful.
It's the quote is it's like the hard part about biz op stuff is that's not ran the right way is people that could have been great entrepreneurs, they get into entrepreneurship with the false expectation, they fail, and then they resent entrepreneurship forever. They never try again. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people that would have been great. They didn't realize the reality of it and they were sold something else. But yeah, it's so true and it's so prevalent. I wish I got flamed. I put out a post on my Twitter maybe 2 weeks ago about how I don't think someone should go buy a business if they and I still kind of believe it if they haven't had a startup and at least made money from a startup, just because then they at least understand the reality a little bit. And that's not a end all be all statement. There's some people that do make it work, but that's my thing on it was I don't know if you follow Cole Simpson. He bought a Mighty Dog Brew franchise.
Cole and I are friends. He's very he's great. He shares exactly what it's like.
I'm like, go read his Twitter before you buy a business. And if that looks like a life that you're okay living for the next 5 years before you start making real money, then by all means go do it. But he's real. You know, I got 10 lawsuits going out. I got $500K in invoices that haven't been paid. I got sales guys quitting and the FBI showing up. Those are things that happen when you're building. It's real. When you're building a business, and that's why I love Twitter. And I think people should go read those kind of firsthand accounts. And Cole's been running businesses a long time. You know, he's not a newbie off the street that's never made a dollar, and he's still. The reality is that and that's why it's so important to stick to something, because otherwise you're just restarting that 5-year cycle of trying to figure it out. How do you do sales in this industry? How does the marketing work? How do you actually increase your margin? How do you hire? Who do you hire? Every time that you jump ship, you're restarting that clock. And that's why people, I think, never end up getting the compounding results that someone does who's in the same game for 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, 20 years.
Yeah. Going back, it just takes so long and it's so difficult to become exceptional at something. And I like that what he talks about on there is like true things about him running a business versus like the franchisor isn't like making me money for me, or like here are the problems with the he's like taking ownership of the business. He's using the franchise, but he's executing and he's out there, and there's not one thing in there pointing blame anywhere else. And I'm sure he thinks that his franchisor could be doing more. There's always that in anything, but like he's taking ownership on a day-to-day basis. And like, that's what it's going to take to get through that craziness of just like he built to, I think it was $6 million in his first year, and he wasn't profitable. Yep. And now he's like, oh wait, now I have all this revenue. Now I need to figure out how to be profitable. And like, that's what business is. You have no clue. You're figuring it out. And I think I agree with you. If you're leaving your MBA and you go buy a business that's 80% leveraged, that's doing $1 million in SDE or profit or whatever, and you go buy it for $4 million and you're 80% leveraged, and maybe you raised 10% and the other 10% you put in of your own cash. Like if that business doesn't work, like it's over.
Yep.
it's over. Like if you have houses and kids, like it's over. And like these businesses are pretty complex that they
Every business
buy.
besides
Yeah.
besides the core selling business, every business is complex, especially service businesses are like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that I got into business young because I never even thought about buying a business or realizing that like that's a somewhat easy thing to do if you really want to do it to a certain extent. Because just I've been able to learn and grit my teeth and get my teeth kicked in for long enough on bootstrap wise where I can make mistakes. And yeah, I've made really expensive mistakes. You know, I've had some mistakes that have cost me $500,000. But it's never been my house has never been in jeopardy being taken from me. My car has never been in jeopardy. Like I've never put myself in that spot, and maybe I'm biased because of that. And I do believe now, like I'm now starting to realize because we've gotten to the 5, 6, 7, $8 million a year range, why a lot of people do eventually just start buying up companies because you skip the product market fit, you skip a lot of the ideation, and you kind of have a product that works at a margin that works, and then it's just kind of scaling from there. So I understand that world now, but the core roots of like stress resiliency, financials, hiring, team building, culture, coaching your team, systems and operations, like just the basics takes so long to actually internalize and get down. Once you have those, buy all the companies you want to a certain extent because you're equipped for it. But I think those things take a decade to learn and like really internalize. And the guys like my father-in-law, he's one of the 50 people in the worldwide financial services hall of fame. He ran a massive firm, thousands of employees, and he did the same business from age 21 to age 69 and did nothing else. He built new products in that business, and his buddies that have done that, like they live a life that I aspire to. And it's we don't have like it's just a weird thing where when you do that for that long, you end up in a good place no matter really what you choose.
Well, it's so difficult to create momentum and have build something that like multiple people want to buy like over and over again. It's like just ride it until the wheels come off. Just do that one thing and like don't kind of divert and go in a different direction. So part of the what we talk about on this podcast is like kind of like the why behind an entrepreneur, right? Like there's a lot there's a lot of stress, as we've talked about. There's a lot of personal development. There's a lot of like real big stressful things that happen from starting a business. And the best entrepreneurs that I know have like a real meaningful why behind it, so that when you are in the trenches and you're underwater and you don't know if you're going to be able to make payroll and your main guy quits and you have to somehow like when all that stuff happens, there's something really driving you forward. And I like to talk about that on these. So
Yeah.
could you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I actually been thinking about this recently because I think, like you said earlier, when you're a new entrepreneur, your fuel is like starting something, and you have to change your fuel to kind of maintaining and protecting something. And I think, like for me, and I think if a lot of people are honest, for me being young, like my fuel at the beginning was to buy some things to be kind of, showy and flashy and show people that I was successful. And I think as that's progressed over the years, I remember being in kind of a personal story. I remember being in youth group when I was in like 7th grade, and I was always kind of that like leader type. Like I kind of just walked my own drum. I skipped a lot of high school dances just because I wanted to go work out and play basketball. Like I did running start in high school, so I did my last 2 years at a junior college, and I still played sports, but I just wanted to be in the gym. And so I've always kind of done things my own way. And I remember being in youth group, and the guy was like, "What do you guys feel is like your purpose?" And I remember verbalizing that, like, mine is to help people. It was especially men, help people become better versions of themselves, leaders. And I think that's really my why in my company is to help people get to where they want to go, the person they want to be, and just create a vision big enough so they can do that within the realms of what I'm trying to build. Because beyond, like, I don't have everything I want financially, but I can kind of already see that, like, there's there's nothing there. Like there's more things to buy. There's a bigger house to buy, but there's nothing really there for me that excites me. One, I just like it. Like I like the pain. I like the chaos. I like the game. It feels like it's a competitive sport to me. Like I like that side of it. Two is I just really like building an organization of people and seeing that come together. There's just something in my brain that just loves that. And I think that's how I'd currently verbalize what my why is. It's not really even like my income. Like I don't like when I set goals, none of them are about like really income goals or like how much revenue we want to do. It's all about what do we want to be doing? What do I want my days to look like? And if my days look like what I want them to look like and I'm enjoying my business, for me, it keeps me coming back to the office every day. And I think that's ultimately like the game. Like the game is to be able to keep coming back to the office. Like my father-in-law is 2 offices over from me right now. He's 77. He just bought another company this year, or 2024. And it's just to be able to keep playing it. And I think that's all of us. We all think about, the beach and retirement. But I think every one of us, if we're true entrepreneurs at our core, we're going to be playing the game as long as we humanly possibly can.
You said you're married. Do you guys have kids too?
Not yet. No. We got married. I got married young. I got married at 23. I'm 20. We're both 26 now. So
nice.
No kids yet.
What does she do? Does she work or?
She has background in the financial service, so she works kind of part-time, quarter-time in real estate. But yeah, that's about it. She that's also cool. And she's actually more educated than me. She spent time at Columbia. She has a bunch of different licenses and degrees, and but she works. She actually runs the company that her dad bought last year, and then does some real estate as well.
That's awesome. My wife is also far more educated than I am. She got her degree, doctorate from Vanderbilt, actually, studying developmental psychology. So my old boss used to joke and say, Aaron married, he would like be talking to like clients or potential candidates and be like, Aaron married way, way, way up. I think, and I'm like, I think this is not a compliment. I think you're making fun of me. But that's okay. Yeah. She doesn't work. We have a 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. And then we have a baby boy on the way, actually.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you. So she stays home and she's super risk averse. But before I decided to launch Rolling Suds, I was like, hey, like, this is what I want to do. I want to find a business to franchise. I don't know which business it's going to be. I'm going to raise capital. I've never done that before, but I'm going to find it. What do you think? And she was like, Aaron, I know you'll take care of us. So go do what you want to do. And made that leap. But that's really interesting about the why. For me, this has been actually kind of a dynamic thing recently. I've been shifting it. Like there's both a professional and a personal why. And the professional why is to change as many lives through franchising possible. And that could be they just learn about it and decide to go buy a franchise. They learn about it and decide to be a franchisor. They learn about it and they say, that's way harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to become a franchisee, or I'm not going to become a franchisor, which would actually change their lives for the positive because they wouldn't make that call. So really just like education about kind of the concept and then building an audience around that can then leverage and create the biggest impact around the topic of like franchising as a business model. That's the professional why. The personal why is to be the absolute best father and husband I can be and change my family's life in the most positive way possible. And that one is more important than the professional why. It just is, because I'm their everything.
Yep.
And therefore they rely on me more than someone who follows me on Twitter that reads a post and says, I'm going to look into franchise ownership. Yep. But they're both important. And that's something that's been really helpful for me to just like put things in perspective on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think personally for me, like that's why I do business, is because I want to be able to, like personally, if I want to spend, like after we have a kid, if I want to take 2 months and just spend it with my wife and kid, I want to be able to do that. So there's definitely personal personal aspects of it for me for sure. I think I don't know. It's not a topic. I think I'm just for some reason I've just always been. I remember sitting in class in high school and I just hated the concept of working for someone, and I've always just internally had this like push to just go to the office, build, go to the office, build, and even I think even if I that why could be whatever, and I think that's what I'm just kind of like robotically like whatever you guys believe in. I feel like whatever created me, I was created to just come to the office and build things and hire people and do that. And if I do that every day the rest of my life, I'll live a very fun, happy life.
Yeah. And when did you kind of realize content, Twitter was going to be an important part? What was it that made you realize?
So I personally hate creating content. Like I've never enjoyed it. And a lot of people it's funny, like the guys that I meet that like love content creation are like guys that don't really like running business. And the guys that I meet that like love running business don't really love content creation, but they understand the value of it. And it's one of my immediate things like, oh, this guy just creates content all day. He's never ran a business and he's selling a course. Like so that's immediate kind of thing that I look at. But for me, I was 20 and I did a big real estate deal, and I was always just focused on relationships. And there was this guy in my market who had a big personal brand, and I wanted to get to know him. I had no brand. I had like 200 followers on my high school Instagram. That was it. And all of my, hey, do you want to get coffee messages? Like didn't work. And so I had this deal that I could make like 50 grand on wholesaling it. But I was like, man, what if I just hit him up and I'm like, hey man, like let's do this deal together. And so I hit him up, we did the deal together, and I made 30 instead of 50 or whatever. But we just hit it off. And he ended up, I was probably 20, 30 deals in. He invited me to this mastermind in Maui at Brandon Turner's house, who was like the number one person in real estate investing world. He ran the biggest podcast. He was like the guy. And there was 15 of us. And a lot of the guys there were just really, really big in the real estate space, or starting to be. And a lot of them are friends, business partners, mentors now. And I just became like their like project. I was a 21-year-old kid. They're all in their 40s and 50s and had it made, had it figured out. And after that, I got invited to go on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and I was 22. And I did it at his house in Maui. It went really viral. And I started getting like 30, 40, 50 DMs a day on Instagram. Like, wow. Hey, can I work for you? Hey, can I work for you for free? Can I do anything for you? Can I buy something from you? And that's when it clicked for me, like, oh, okay, there's utility to my business here. And I tell everyone that personal brand is the ultimate friction remover. You want to hire someone, makes it frictionless. You want to test a business idea, makes it frictionless. You want to increase revenue short term to backfill capital because you're in a crunch, frictionless to do that. And that's really when it switched for me. And I still never loved it, but that's when I started building systems and getting more into it and putting on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and it built across different platforms. But it was never an intentional like, hey, I want to be a content creator. It's more of, oh, this can be very valuable to what I'm doing in my vision. Let's find a way to systemize it. But if I don't sit down and plan my day around like, hey, here's the content I'm going to create with my content team, and I just like flow through a day, I'm not thinking about posting on Instagram or Twitter. Like it's just not even in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how it was for me a little bit because, like when I launched Rolling Suds, like it was not in my 10-year plan to like build an audience.
Yeah.
Like it was like, I'm going to run this business really well. I'm going to hire great people. I'm going to drive the business forward. I'm going to drive sales, marketing, and like, I'm going to go. And in 2023, when we launched, Brian Beers, had started building an audience like a year prior or whatever in May of 22, or is I think when he started posting regularly. And we met because I invited him to come kind of see the operation. And he's a franchise broker as well, and franchise consultant. For those who are listening, it's like a real estate agent for franchises. So kind of evaluates the opportunities and brings the right ones to different candidates. And he came and saw what we did. He saw that we had, cleaned a 3,000 square foot house in 20 minutes. He wrote about us, and that thread went viral, and we got like 24 introductions in like 12 hours for people who wanted to move forward. And then he turned it into a newsletter a week later, and we got 12 introductions from the newsletter. Like, and then it just became this like compounding thing. And I was not active on Twitter at all. I think at the time I had like 160 followers or something like that. I mean, like a nothing audience. And then I didn't really personally want to do it. I thought it was inauthentic. I thought I wouldn't have time because I'd be running businesses. And I just was like, I don't want to be like talking to a camera and like thinking that I'm like cool and people are going to judge me because I'm just like talking about myself on camera.
Yeah.
You know, all those like limiting beliefs that I think we've all told ourselves,
Yep.
or for anyone who's created content as part of the business. But when I think of like the leverage, right? Like your goal of helping as many people as possible and changing, you know, building opportunities for them, or my goal of really doing the same thing via the franchise business model or education around franchising. Like I'm just going to be able to have a bigger lever
Yep.
and more like on the business, on that mission, if I have an audience. And now it's a massive part of what we do. Like it's massive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's there's nothing that, I think there's much that creates more leverage and personal brand. It's one of those things of like, one of my goals is to sell what we're building. At least currently one of my goals. And so I'm thinking about a lot, enterprise value all the time, and, you know, revenue retention and how we maximize our upside. And it's one of those fights because it's so easy to generate traffic with social media and brand. But it's also one of the main like risks of someone buying your business is if a lot of your traffic comes from your brand. So
I've thought about that a lot.
It's you have to play with that a little bit, and always like I'm always trying to backfill our new client acquisition with paid traffic and other channels. Yeah, I 1,000% agree. I think if you guys are out there too, I always tell people, because like, oh, you're on camera all the time, don't you feel like weird? I'm like, you know, for like a year, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of feels gross. Like, what are people thinking about me? But then there's a switch that goes off in your brain where you literally just stop caring eventually. Mm-hmm. And once that happens, that's when it gets really fun. And you have to create enough content to get there. But once that switch happens, I'm like, I just don't care. And it also helps you, I feel like, become more of a rounded person, because once you don't care and you're through that like whole embarrassment, what are people going to think of me piece, it makes life as a whole much smoother. And you kind of beat to your own drum. And you're like, oh, I'll put my opinion out there. Like, who really cares at the end of the day?
I can totally relate. I mean, so prior to Twitter, I was writing every day on LinkedIn, and the franchise community lives on LinkedIn. It's a very, very active platform, and I had like kind of, or I suppose I still have like cracked the algorithm for the franchise algorithm on LinkedIn. And I was like nervous about camera for some reason. And when I first started doing things on camera, it would take me like freaking 6 or 7 hours to record like 20 videos, because I would just get so awkward looking at the camera. I wasn't myself. I'm like, do I need to like play this up like Cody Sanchez does? But I'm not an actor, like, and I don't want to be. And then like eventually it just was like, just like anything, it got easier, and I can say what I feel, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, but we just stay consistent with it.
Yeah, the best way to build a brand is,
but it's been a massive part,
being authentic, like, and not being someone else. You know, the first time I went on stage and spoke to whatever 100 people, I was like pissing my pants. And I spoke 2 weeks ago to a big crowd here in San Diego, and my picture, like my bio picture, is like me on my boat with sunglasses, because I'm too lazy to like update my headshot. And I go up now and I'm like, you got to listen to this douchebag talk about business today for an hour. And then I just get into it. Like it just doesn't really bother me anymore at all. But yeah, it's definitely something that if you guys are out there running a business, you want to remove some friction, just start talking about what you're doing and start there, and then you can build on it. But it's powerful.
Yeah. So what's next? How big is your team? You said the business is like 7-8 million right now.
Yeah, combined,
like that?
combined across.
Combined.
Do, yeah. No, it's
so what's the plan? How big do you want to get
5,
it?
6.
Profit, revenue, all that stuff.
We've been changing the real estate side to be more of a, you know, you'll appreciate this. It's kind of like a franchise. I've beef with the real estate franchisors, because they really leave the people out to dry, because real estate's such a hard dynamic thing. The sales cycle is so long. and we have some big clients that are franchises that use us as their main lead gen provider. So I've been able to peek behind the curtain. So we've really become more of a gym launch style offer, I would say, for real estate, where lead generation is part of it, but they're also they can hire people through us, salespeople, admins, through our hiring pool. They get all the training they need. They get a one-on-one success coach. So we're really treating it like that model. And then on the pipeline generator side, the telephony side, the home services side, is really creating the inbound outbound solution for home services. In terms of how big it wants to get, again, I don't really think through that. Like, I just want it to be really good. Like, once it's really good, I don't care how big it gets. Like, recently we've acquired 70% of one of the newer, like, really cool AI voice software things that built on AI. I'm not technical, but we've built that. We started rolling it out to a lot of our clients, so all their inbound calls can be taken through it. I actually, before this call, I had my team train it on rolling suds. So I have a phone number if you want to call, that if you call it, it'll walk through like it's a rolling suds inbound agent. If you wanted to try it, it's really cool. But yeah, so lead generation, just being the best at lead generation and inbound services and helping people around that side of the business, because it's big. How quickly you answer the phone, what that process looks like, how many leads you can generate as you solve the other variables of business like sales, operations, hiring. That becomes the ultimate growth lever. So I don't have the answer to how big. I just want to make everything we do the best out there, create content around it, and then I just enjoy it. Like, I'm just having fun. And if we sell, don't sell, whatever, I'm making plenty of money and enjoying what I do. So that's really all you can ask for.
Did you grow up in California?
No. I grew up in Seattle. I moved down here 2020 with a buddy of mine. We were just
cool.
like, hey, we can both work remote. Let's send it. Let's go try somewhere else.
That's awesome. I'm from Newport Beach.
Oh, awesome.
So
I love Newport.
My content strategist, who's also happens to be my best friend since like 6th grade, lives in Encinitas. So
also love Encinitas.
Very familiar. Yeah. Do you surf?
No. I have a bit in Hawaii. My brother-in-law got out here off the coast of San Diego, got rammed by a great white, and that was kind of the end of anyone in our family getting out there on a surfboard.
Yeah, that's not that's one of those things where you're like, nope, never going to do it again.
Yeah, not the upside's not there.
Yeah. Well, Cole, where can people find you if they want to learn more or they want to become a client?
Yeah, if you're in the home service space and you want inbound outbound solutions, pipelinegenerator.io. Very simple, very easy. We have a great team. And then if you're listening to this for whatever reason, you're in real estate. I know this is more home services related, but easybuttonleads.com is our main website right now, as we're growing our product suite. So, and then always Instagram, Twitter, you can reach out. I respond to all DMs myself. I love connecting with people that are out there in the trenches building the business. So follow me on there and DM me with whatever.
Awesome. And we'll put all your handles and stuff in the show notes on wherever it's posted. But thanks, man, for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been great getting to know you.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.